All right, everybody, welcome to part 2 of the Naptime Podcast, now recording on April the 4th of 2020. I am your host, Todd Napper. Thank you so much for joining me. So glad that you are here. And this podcast, we are going to dedicate a majority of this podcast to Today in History. All right, today in history, today obviously being April the 4th, 2020, we're going to look back on events that happened on this date throughout the years. So, without further ado, we are going to start with the World Trade Center. In 1973, April 4th, the World Trade Center is dedicated, and at 1,350 feet and 110 stories, it was the world's tallest building. However, this record was broken the following month by the Sears Tower. It would be bombed by terrorists in 1993 and totally completely destroyed in 2001 in the 9/11 attacks. The 9/11 attacks was something that most of us will remember. Actually, it's getting to a point now that some of our younger people actually don't remember it and don't remember exactly what happened. I definitely remember where I was on that day, and I'm sure that around September 11th and that time that I will do a podcast about it, but I was actually on my way to work whenever I heard what was going down. I heard about it on the radio. Whenever the first tower was attacked and then everything that followed throughout that day, I remember being rather nervous and kind of scared about what was going on and not really sure about if we were going to be going to war or if the war was coming to us or what was going on. But what I didn't know and what I didn't realize that this was not the only attack that happened on these that happened on the World Trade Centers. I did not realize that in 1993 on February 26th that there was a truck bomber there. A truck bomb was detonated in the parking garage of the North Tower of the World Trade Center. The 1,336-pound urea nitrate hydrogen gas enhanced device was intended to send the North Tower crashing into the South Tower, bringing both towers down and killing tens of thousands of people. Wow, so this was actually planned to do way beforehand. And it failed to do so, but killed 6 people and injured over 1,000. And we know that in 2011, it killed, I think it was close to 3,000 people on that one. So, wow, I didn't realize that, and that was the second time that it had been attacked. If anybody remembers that, I should remember that, but let's see, 1993, I was 9 years old at the time, so I probably was not really paying attention to world events at that time. So that bombing to me is probably like the 2001 attacks for a lot of people younger than me. And anyway, after that, in not after that, but next we have in 1887, we have the first United States woman as elected as mayor. Susanna Medora Salter is elected by Orgonia, Kansas, and she was nominated as a prank. And she didn't even find out she was running until the morning of the election. She was nominated without her knowledge by a group of men who opposed women in politics as an attempt to humiliate her and discourage other women from running for office. Ironically, she received 2/3 of the vote, and she served her 1-year term and then declined to run for re-election. What is interesting to me about this is this was actually during a time, too, that women weren't allowed to vote. So this woman actually received the votes by a bunch of men. So apparently whoever was running against her in a time where women were obviously ridiculed and very much hated for running for office, whoever was running against her must have not been very good at what they were doing. Otherwise, she wouldn't have received such a large majority of the vote. Also, let's see, a few other notable events. I'm going to kind of blow through some of these events because there's one event in history that I want to do a deep dive into and spend a majority of my time talking about, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So some of these I may kind of blow through, and I may give a quick opinion on and just my thoughts. And there's actually a few of these that I actually left out just for the sake of time. But one of the things I want to talk about is the 500 Club. The 500 Club is actually how many people have hit 500 home runs. And on April the 4th in 2003, Sammy Sosa actually hit his 500th home run, which obviously comes with a little bit of an asterisk because he was also one of the players that it had been proven that he had been using steroids. Now, my thoughts on the use of steroids may not be the same as other people's who think about steroids. I'm all for it. I mean, if these guys really want to jack up their bodies, I mean, who doesn't love a good home run, right? I know it messes with the stat. I know people argue, that's not fair to the game and all that kind of stuff. But, I mean, to be able to hit a ball, period, going 90, 100 miles an hour is a feat within itself. To be as jacked as these guys were and still be able to hit the ball, that's still pretty impressive to me. So, I mean, in my mind, hey, if that... And that's the big thing about Barry Bonds and Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, all of these guys who got caught up in the steroid scandals. They're trying to keep them out of the Hall of Fame, which, I mean, I can see the point and everything like that. But I still think it's pretty impressive to have that kind of a milestone. And in 1993, we're doing a couple of little sports things in history today. Mario Andretti, in 1993, at age 53, the legendary race car driver becomes the oldest person to win an IndyCar race, and he did it by winning the Valvoline 200. This also made him the first driver to win in 4 different decades. I remember a little bit about Mario Andretti. I'm not much of a Formula One an IndyCar fan. I don't really know a whole lot about it, but I do know a little bit about Mario Andretti. Well, I know more so about his son. Now that I say that, can't even think of the guy's name, but I do know it's Andretti. I know him a little bit from NASCAR. I know that he came over and he tried to race in NASCAR for a while. Didn't really have a lot of success, but I did more learn so about Mario Andretti. Actually, I learned mostly about Mario Andretti from watching a show. I don't know exactly which one what it's called, but I remember watching the show at the Omni Theater when I was a kid, and I saw the story about Mario Andretti, and it was talking about different cars that he drove and things like that, so that was pretty cool. Also in 1974, going back to baseball, the baseball legend Hank Aaron hits his 714th home run, tying Babe Ruth's record. He hit number 715 4 days later. Now, a lot of people also argue that this record is the one that stands now, even though Barry Bonds eclipsed it a few years ago, and he technically, quote-unquote, technically has the record. A lot of people still honor Hank Aaron as still being the home run king because he didn't do it without steroids, and Barry Bonds didn't. And like I said, we can have that argument all in many different ways. In 1983, the first launch of the second space shuttle is done, and the Challenger is launched. I didn't realize that this... In 1986, I was almost 2 years old. It exploded 73 seconds into launch, resulting in the death of all 7 crew members, including civilian schoolteacher Krista McAuliffe. So that makes me wonder if she was on the shuttle when that happened, or was she collateral damage whenever it exploded elsewhere? I don't remember this at all, obviously, since I wasn't even 2 years old yet, but I didn't realize that was on today. Wow, time does fly. In 1818, the Flag Act of 1818 is adopted by the U.S. Congress. It has specified a flag of 13 stripes, one for each of the original colonies, 20 stars, one for each state currently in the Union. New stars were being added as new states entered the Union. The previous Flag Act of 1794 specified a flag of 15 stripes and 15 stars, one each for the 15 states of the Union at the time. It was deemed impractical to add a new stripe for each state new state added, so they chose to go back to 13 stripes and a star for each state. There were no official flags with no official U.S. flags with 16, 17, 18, or 19 stars. Yeah, could you imagine how long that flag would have to be now to have 50 stripes on there? It would either have to be really long or really tiny stripes. That'd be interesting to see. Somebody should make that. Anybody have an idea? Anybody want to do that? Somebody try to make a flag that has the 50 stripes along with the 50 stars. Let me know how that works out for you, please. That'd be awesome. All right. Now we're going to move on to notable birthdays. Notable birthdays. One being Wrong Way Roy Regals. Born in 1908, died in 1993. He was an American football player, and during the 1929 Rose Bowl, he ran 65 yards the wrong way. He was stopped 6 inches from the goal by his own teammate. This was all for naught, as a safety was scored on a blocked punt the next play, which caused his team to lose 8-7. Oh man, I hope that didn't give it. Oh yeah, it's during the Rose Bowl. So yeah, wow. He probably didn't live that one down at all. This is often considered the worst blunder in college football. Yeah, I can imagine. I could almost see how you could get confused running a football. That I don't know, depending on was he did he recover? Did he intercept the ball? Was he on offense or defense whenever he did this? Don't know. 1973, we have David Blaine. He is known for his close-up street magic, levitations, and life-threatening endurance stunts. I haven't seen really very many of his things. I've not been a fan of David Blaine. I may have to check out some of his stuff. 1965, Robert Downey Jr. He was an American comedian and on Saturday Night Live. I didn't know that. That's something new that I didn't realize. I didn't know he was on Saturday Night Live. I first came across Robert Downey Jr. I'm trying to remember exactly the first one that I saw him at. What first movie I saw him in? Robert Downey Jr., the first one that I really recollect and seeing him in was Sherlock Holmes. Both of the Sherlock Holmes movies, and then obviously everybody knows him from the Marvel films and Iron Man. So that's what he's probably most popular known as Iron Man. Then we also have Anthony Perkins. He was born in 1932. He died in 1932 and died in 1992. He was in the film Psycho as Norman Bates. Right, let's see. Going back to some sports, Arnold Malcolm Owen, known as Mickey Owen. Born in 1916, he died in 2005, and he was an American baseball catcher. Why are these people known as... why these guys are known for their blunders. He hit the first pinch hit home run in the All-Star game in 1942. But what he's most known for is he dropped a third strike in the 1941 World Series that allowed the Yankees to win the game and go on to beat the Dodgers in the series. Ironically, that same season, he had set the record for the most errorless chances by a catcher with 508 perfect attempts. Oh, wow. That just kind of goes by the wayside whenever you realize this is actually a kind of a good lesson for everybody. It doesn't matter how good you are and what all good things that you've done. If you screw up one time, if you mess up one time, that's what you're going to be known by. Like this guy, the guy who ran the wrong way in the Rose Bowl. He could have been one of the best players in the league, but yet he's going to be most known for the one time he made a mistake and cost somebody the game. Like this guy, he dropped the third strike and allowed the Yankees to win the game. So he is going to be known forever as the guy who botched up the play. It doesn't matter if he set a record by having the least error chances by a catcher. So, yeah, that's a lesson for you. 1906,